Joining me now for some analysis is Brendan Bouffard. He is with Fairplay, an organization that helps create a safer environment for children online. Brendan, welcome to the program. What do you think about what Australia is doing, and will this ban for 16 and under actually work? As we know, teens are clever and always find ways to get around these rules and regulations. They can use VPNs and go to fake accounts.
Hi, Asieh. Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, I think this particular ban is it's a culmination of years of efforts from regulators in Australia, the EU, the United States, both in the federal government and the state government, to do something to be able to protect kids online. The design choices and the decisions that these companies have been making for years have caused like an unimaginable crisis, fueling compulsive use, eating disorders, depression, anxiety, suicide, sexual exploitation. And, we have always believed that the companies can fix these problems if they want to, but that comes at a cost to their bottom line. And so far, they've resisted any incentive whatsoever to change their behavior. And so Australia is sort of like taking matters into its own hands. It's moving to the next logical conclusion of trying to solve the problem by removing teens entirely from the platform. I think this is just sort of a logical consequence of the decisions that these companies have been making.
Well, but you didn't really answer my question, Brendan. And my question to you was, is this actually an effective way to protect these children? Is it going to work?
I think it's going to be effective in reducing the prevalence of these online harms. The amount of time that we reduce children and teens being on these platforms, you're going to have a reduction in the prevalence of these harms. We also know that these companies have an insane amount of data about the ages of these accounts. And so while it's possible for some teens and children and teens to try to get around these restrictions, these companies already know what age these kids are, because we see that they use that sort of data in order to micro-target advertisements based on age category. So, we believe that these companies do have the ability to implement these restrictions. And of course, teens are going to continuously try to get around this. But we've also seen that in cases where children and teens, step off of social media, they do eventually find that their mental health improves, that they have better relationships with their friends in real life. And so it'll be interesting to see, as the ban moves forward, sort of the difference in how teens in Australia socialize and whether they continue trying to go back to these unsafe and addicting platforms.
So what's the downside here? I mean, when you talk to young kids today, they say this is not necessarily the solution. They say these tech companies should remove harmful content, not us, not them.
Yeah, I think the downside to doing overall ban is that you're going to obviously reduce the ability for teens to have access to the platform at all. I wish that these platforms were more willing to reduce the amount of design features that they use that make the platform addictive and unsafe in the first place. But with them not doing that, it's sort of like Australia is figuring out its next best option. I do think one of the things that's interesting is the reason that so many of these children and teens feel like they need to have social media in order to foster a connection with their friends and to find community is because the proliferation of social media has reduced the ability to form meaningful connections in real life in traditional third spaces like parks and libraries and that sort of thing. So I do believe that it's possible for and beneficial for teens to form those connections in real life. So although there's potential that you're going to reduce some community for these Australian teens, I think that the net positive gain in reducing these very devastating harms is worth it.
I understand. And could this possibly, what's happening in Australia, trigger similar measures, similar bans in other parts of the world, in the US, in Europe?
In the United States, it is a little bit unclear as to whether or not a overall social media ban would be constitutional with the First Amendment protections that we have that work a little differently than how speech restrictions work in Australia. And so we are hoping that social media companies will, maybe take the path of just getting rid of some of these dangerous design features in the first place, like I mentioned. I mean, we have seen that when these social media companies try to use things like parental tools and safeguards that are voluntarily implemented, they're almost always ineffective, and they're more a media strategy to increase trust in the platform to drive additional users more than it is to actually make things safe. So I think it's yet to be seen. There are a few states in the United States that have tried to significantly reduce the ability for teens to have accounts on these social media platforms in general. And it's a little bit unclear as to whether or not that is going to be the ultimate solution that we turn to here.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Brendan Bouffard, thank you so much.
So much. Thanks for having me.